Hello, Tony here for Sprint7. As for my collision system from last week, everything worked pretty well after I figured out the include loop that was going on, and it turns out that it was between the collision manager, the collidable, and the collision dispatch. I had a include for collidable in here when I didn't need it, and then the collision manager was including that because it has to have dispatch to create a new one here. So then it was, and I believe one of these also has oh yeah, because Collidable then has to have Collision Manager in it or included into it. So anyway, fix the include loop. Everything works fine and dandy now, and we've got the actual collision tests in right now. So here's my code for the collision B sphere. Got its center, radius, and a command. That's so I don't have to recycle. I'll once we in the next class, once we have different commands, I'll probably have to make a pool for that. But right now, since they're all B spheres, it should be fine. Anyway, here's the CPP file. Pretty standard. We got the compute data here, computing the center, and then the radius from the model of, in this case, the tank, and the world matrix that it's given every update frame. And then we got the two intersects down here. I just left this one blank because it's for other collision volumes. And then I filled it in the intersect for the B-sphere intersects overload. And oh, probably should pull up the math tools. Math tools, nothing or barely anything in there right now, as you might expect. But we've got our lovely little intersect function here, doing all the math for a. I just put it in the. I probably could have put it in one line, but I put it in 3 lines to make it a little more easier for on the eyes. But anyway, pretty much the same. Right, so that's it for intersection and B-spheres. So we've got our, this is the collision test command, which, or the CPP for the collision test command. So before we would have had, like right here, we had just the set it to true, and then the if statement that then dispatch sends out the dispatch, or processes the dispatch. But now we have the intersect here, which intersects the B sphere from the first loop and then the second B sphere, so that it'll see if they're intersecting, and then if they are, it will of course call the collidable functions in their respective collidable files, and then we got the visualizer here, which will then show it in red if it's colliding, and then if it's not colliding, it'll do the default, which is blue. Right. So let's head on to not that to the visualizer. Right. So we got visualizer here. It's a singleton, as you might expect. Right. Nothing too crazy there. It's got to terminate, all that good singleton stuff. Right. So we've got our visualizer code here. We've got the setting up the structures there. Of course, this is the doing the initial math for the that we need the sphere for, which will then pass off only if I actually had to add this test in after some testing for this if statement and after testing. So this basically says if it's not red, or if it's not in the list already, the command list, or it's not red, because I was having trouble because I have 2 enemy tanks on the screen that it collides with, and I was having trouble with it lining up if it it was actually going through all the proper stuff. It's just that like the collidable functions, it's just that the uh, it was showing in blue because it was reading the blue last, so then it would just read the blue. so the one of them would be blue even though it's triggering the collision. But anyway, I added this test in so that it looks like it should. And then that sends off the command if it passes the if, which will then come back and call this private render here, private render bsphere, which renders it. That's what they execute in the command here through the visualizer attorney right here. Right. So that calls that, and then just a little bit of housekeeping there. Right. So I think that's everything on the system side. So I'm gonna prove that it works. Then I'll look at some of the demo code. I don't quite have all the demo code I want, but as you can see, everything's lighting up. The middle tank is the player tank, and the other two are enemy tanks, or soon to be once I get a little bit more code to make them do things. But as you can see, actually, there's a the player tank is proclaiming very loudly that it's being hit. That was that's still left over from when I was trying to figure out why it wasn't lighting up, because basically I would back into this one, or I'd collide with this one on the right here, and the player tank wouldn't light up, and I was very confused for a while because it was showing the thing, and I figured out that it was just overwriting the red one with the blue one when it wasn't colliding with the tank on the left here. But yeah, anyway, let's take a look at the code over here. This is the enemy tank. It's got some standard stuff. Again, I have the different bits separated. The treads are just separated purely because of model quirk, because there are different objects in the model. But I separated the whole and turret out specifically so that I could have them turn in the future. Right. Oh yeah, Godcam. I forgot about Godcam. Almost forgot about Godcam. Right. So here's the scene. The new scene. And player tank is pretty similar to enemy tank. It just has the controls attached to it, and it's got some different registrations. Yeah. So let's look at Godcam. Right. So I actually tried to make it completely on my own at first, which was a terrible idea because I found out in the Discord that there is that you already put in a project with the way to do the controls for it, and I was stuck on the rotation, because the rotation would be weird, and then I saw that you'd have basically already done it for us, and I was like, okay, well, I'll just change it. So then I added in the rotation, and now it works. Ooh.